For centuries, we looked at a forest and saw a battlefield. Since the time of Charles Darwin, the story of nature was dominated by survival of the fittest. We looked at trees and saw solitary fortresses, each one fighting a ruthless, zero-sum game against its neighbors for every scrap of sunlight, every drop of water, and every nutrient in the soil. We thought that if one tree was winning, the other had to be losing. But it turns out we were looking at the wrong picture. What if I told you that beneath your feet, there is a biological superhighway, a hidden infrastructure that turns a forest from a collection of isolated individuals into a massive, interconnected superorganism? You've probably heard it called the Wood Wide Web. It's a beautiful idea, trees holding hands underground. But here's the twist: the science behind this is currently facing a massive civil war. Is the forest actually a socialist utopia where trees help each other? Or is it just a ruthless capitalist marketplace disguised as cooperation? Today, we are digging deep into the biotic internet to separate the scientific facts from the Hollywood fiction. To understand this network, you have to look at the hardware. It's not built of fiber optics or copper wire, but of fungi, specifically mycorrhizal fungi. This partnership is ancient. In fact, it's likely what allowed plants to move from the ocean to land 40-50 million years ago. Here is how it works. Tree roots are vital, but they are actually quite clumsy. They can't easily reach the tiny microscopic pockets of nutrients hiding in the soil pores. Fungi, however, are masters of detail. They send out tiny threads called hyphae, so thin that you could fit thousands of them inside a single pine needle. These fungi plug physically into the tree roots. It is a biological barter system. The tree captures carbon from the air, sugar, and trades it to the fungus. In return, the fungus mines the soil for phosphorus and nitrogen and pipes it directly into the tree. But it doesn't stop at a one-to-one trade. In deep forests, these fungal lines run from tree to tree, connecting pines to oaks and old giants to young seedlings. It turns the soil into a scale-free network, looking suspiciously like our own digital internet. And just like the internet has huge servers, the forest has mother trees, the massive, old hubs that are connected to everything around them. So, what is actually traveling through these cables? The most famous discovery came from Dr. Suzanne Sumard in the late 90s. She found that trees were effectively trading food. In a landmark experiment, she showed that a paper birch tree and a Douglas fir were sharing resources. In the summer, when the birch had plenty of leaves and sunlight, it sent carbon underground to the shaded fir tree. Later in the season, when the birch lost its leaves, the evergreen fir returned the favor. It looked like a lifeline. There is even evidence suggesting that when a tree is dying, it dumps its remaining resources, its last will and testament, back into the network for the benefit of the community. This gave rise to the idea of the cooperative forest, that trees act like a family, protecting their kin and supporting the weak. It is a beautiful story. It inspired the movie Avatar and changed how we see nature. But recently, science has hit the brakes. In 2023, a major review by Justine Karst and her colleagues caused what we call the Great Schism in forest ecology. They looked at the data and said, wait a minute, we might be romanticizing this. The skeptics point out some uncomfortable truths. First, they found a cetacean bias in the scientific literature. It's like a game of telephone. One study would find a tiny amount of carbon transfer, but the next paper would cite it as proof that trees feed each other. The reality, while carbon does move between trees, the amount is often tiny, sometimes less than 1% of a tree's diet. That isn't a meal, it's barely a crumb. They also question the methodology. Many of these positive results came from experiments using mesh bags to isolate roots. Karst argued that those bags might just be blocking water flow or worms, creating artificial results that don't happen in the wild. And regarding the mother tree idea, the critics argue that what looks like sharing might actually be theft. If a seedling is connected to a massive tree, the fungus might just be moving resources to the biggest organism because it's a better investment, not because the tree is being maternal. However, even if the resource sharing is exaggerated, the communication aspect seems very real. This is the nervous system of the forest. We know that when a plant is attacked by aphids or disease, it panics. It releases chemical signals. Experiments with tomato plants have shown that if you infect one plant, its neighbor, connected only by fungi, will start ramping up its immune system before the disease even arrives. It's like a neighborhood watch program. Some researchers are even looking into electrical signals, suggesting the root tips act like a green brain, sending voltage spikes through the fungal wires to warn the colony. So why does any of this matter to you? Because this network is the glue holding our climate together. Forest soils are the world's largest terrestrial carbon sink. The fungi are the gatekeepers of that carbon. But climate change is threatening to cut the cables. As the world warms and dries out, the thick, connecting fungi are dying off, replaced by faster, weedy fungi that don't build these massive networks. If these networks collapse, we hit a tipping point. Look at the Amazon rainforest. It relies on deep-rooted trees and fungal webs to recycle water. If that web breaks, the rainforest stops making its own rain. It could transition into a dry savanna. That isn't just bad for the trees, that is a climate catastrophe for the planet. So, where does that leave us? The forest isn't a Disney movie where everyone holds hands and sings. But it's also not just a battlefield, it's a city. It's messy, it is a place of negotiation, trade, theft, and cooperation, all happening at once in the dark. Whether they are altruistic mothers or ruthless traders, these trees are connected. And that means when we cut down a forest, we aren't just removing wood, we are destroying a civilization. If you want to keep exploring the hidden systems that run our world, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. The world is much more complex than it looks on the surface, and we are just scratching the surface.